So we'll resume our discussion today from 1:11:16, Krishna's entry into Dwarka, and we'll start with our Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishvadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschachadishitarane Mukham Karoti Vachanam Egarim Yat Kripatu Mahumande Shri Guru Devi. So we'll continue with the discussion of Krishna's entry into Dwarka. And previously, we had discussed the verses of Krishna's approach to Dwarka and the reaction of the citizens of Dwarka. Upon hearing Krishna, upon meditation on Krishna's imminent association. And all these were giving us a glimpse into the mood of the pure devotees. That how do they live? How do they live in the presence of Krishna? How do they live in the absence of Krishna? What do they think about? How do they act? So continuing our discussion, 1:11:16 and 17. Nishmaya prestham ayantam vasudeva mahamanaha akruras chograshanes akrurachograshenascha ramascha adbhuda vikramaha pradyumnascha chadrashenascha shambho jambavati sutaha Araharshave guchashita tayanasha bhojanaha. On hearing that the most dear Krishna was approaching Dwarka Dham, magnanimous Vasudev, Akrura, Ugrasen, Balram, the superhumanly powerful Pradyumna, Charudeshna, and Samba, the son of Jambavati, all extremely happy, abandoned, resting, eating, and dining. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he gives a brief introduction of all these personalities. And in the interest of time, I won't go into this. Most of the personalities you know of, but you can always read the purport. Well, you should always read the purport and see Prabhupada's thumbnail sketch of their personality. Two of the people are called out with exceptional qualities. So one is Vasudev and is called Mahamanaha or magnanimous. The reason Vasudev is called magnanimous is because he's upholder of his vows. When he had given his vow to Kamsa that he will give all his children, all his sons to him, so even over the protest of Devaki, even going against his own natural instincts, he upheld that vow. Later on, when Kamsa realized, or more out of fear, but then he set them free, and he came to them asking for forgiveness. And at that time, both Devaki and Vasudev, they quickly forgave him. And the conversation is very interesting. That Kamsa at that point, he becomes a preacher. He talks about the law of karma. He talks about the modes of material nature. He talks about the conditioned soul. So if you take Kamsa out of the picture, you would think that somebody is like a devotee is preaching. But Kamsa is using all that to justify his own action. That I was helpless, I was driven by the modes, fear of death, what can I do? And basically he said, I'm a fallen person, but you're a magnanimous person. So you should forgive me. And Vasudev says that I'm not a magnanimous person, you're not a fallen person, but because you're genuinely repenting what you did, I forgive you. So considering the severity of the crimes that of the 8 children that were born of Devaki, he killed 6 of her sons. Very difficult to forgive such a person, but they genuinely forgave. That's why Vasudeva is famous for his as Mahamana, as for his broad-mindedness, his magnanimity. And then Lord Balram, he is known as Adbhut Vikrama. So Vikrama means that superhuman activities. Adbhut means ones that are unique, that are difficult for anybody to replicate. And we know that Lord Balaram, he is very strong. At one point, he got upset at Duryodhan and the Kauravas, and he was all ready to pull Hastinapur into the river Yamuna. So he put his plow down and he was actually dragging Hastinapur into the river Yamuna. So as his expansion, Anantashesh, he holds the entire universe on his head. So all these people, they abandoned their resting, sitting, and dining. And Prabhupada says that is the mood of a devotee, that when they get an opportunity to associate with Krishna, then they are willing to give up anything and everything. And they gave it up, not grudgingly, but the verse says that they happily gave up all this. So they were extremely happy and abandoned the resting, sitting, and dining. So it's not that they said, oh my God, Krishna has come, now we have to go out and we were comfortably sitting in our palace. But out of spontaneous love, all these things were no longer important for them. Next verse, 111:18. Varanendram purukshratya brahmane sasumangalaha shankaturya ninadena brahmaghosena chadrataha pratyujgamau ratherhista pranayagata sada sadvasaha. They hastened towards the Lord on chariots, with brahmanas bearing flowers. Before them were elephants, emblems of good fortune. Conch shells and bugles were sounded, and Vedic hymns were chanted. Thus, they offered their respects, which were saturated with affection. So, why are elephants considered to be emblems of good fortune?
Because they're strong?
Because they're strong? Yeah, true, because they're strong. But really because they're expensive. So one can only afford elephants if one is very rich. It's like affording I was reading an article about a limited edition car that I've forgotten the details, but a limited edition car that is being sold for like $4.7 million, and every oil change is $25,000. So, and I was thinking that every oil change is the cost of the car that I have. but obviously a person who can afford that car, good fortune. He has a lot of good fortune. So um, uh, uh, the reason Hastinapur was considered to be a prosperous city because of Hasti is name of elephant, because the city was populated. The owners could have, it's like having considering that you have a town in which everybody drives a Mercedes. So in that city, everybody had elephants. The city was basically crowded with elephants. It was a prosperous city. So what the verse is making this point is that uh, uh, in worshiping Krishna, the best of the paraphernalia should be used. One should not think that Krishna has everything, so he does not need anything from me. So anything will do. Once Prabhupada was, I forget which town, I think it was Sydney. So he was visiting the temple over there. And the devotees were very enthusiastic that Prabhupada had come. So one of the Matajis over there, she had like a basket with flower petals. And as Prabhupada was walking on the path, she was throwing petals on the path in front of the feet of Prabhupada. And at one point, Prabhupada stopped and he bent down, he picked up a few petals. He looked at the petals and he said, "These are useless flowers." And the point that he was making was that you should offer the best. So the devotees over there, so those days, the temples were not very opulent. So they had taken the flowers that were dried off or they were old. So they were thinking that we'll just put them. Now the sentiment was, of course, great, but they were thinking that we can use this. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to show that when in spirituality, you should offer your best, because it is not what you're offering, but it's the sentiment behind what you're offering that is more important. So when you're offering something to somebody that you love, you automatically offer the best. So in this verse also says that whatever they were offering, they were ujagamuhu. Ujagamuhu means with eagerness, and pristaha with happiness, with sadavsha with respect, and with pranayagat with love. So Sutta Goswami, he uses this confluence of emotions to show that everything else was actually a medium. What they were offering were actually the eagerness and happiness and love and respect. So just completing the point I had made, that there are two reasons why one should offer their best to Krishna. And so this verse makes this point that conch shells and bugles were sounded, Vedic hymns were chanted, and all this was done to create a sense of auspiciousness. And one may question that Krishna is the source of auspiciousness. What is the need for all this? What is the need for the conch shells, the bugles? What is the need for the Vedic hymns, etc.? And Acharyas say two reasons. One is the auspiciousness is not so much for Krishna as it is for us. So when before Aarti, when we sound the conch, then the sound of the conch, it elevates our mood to that of goodness. That's why we sound the conch. It's pleasing to Krishna also, but it also elevates our mood. In the past, we have seen that how Krishna offered his protection to Maharaj or Krishna, sorry, he was offered protection by Maharaj Yudhishthir when he was leaving Hastinapur. He was given blessings by the ladies of Hastinapur and by Kunti Devi. He was given gifts by the citizens of Dwarka, not because he needs it, but because these acts purify the giver. So anything that is done in connection with Krishna is for the ultimate benefit of the person who is doing it. And the more that is done, the more commensurate benefit is there. Next verse, 111:19. Varmukhya's sataso yanaistad darshanat sukha rasat kundala nirbata kapalavadanna shriyaha. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and the beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. So Srila Prabhupada uses this verse as a very strong preaching verse. He makes many wonderful points in the purport. So Sutta Goswami, he describes the beauty of this woman. So he says Vadanashriya, that they had beautiful faces, naturally beautiful faces, and they were enhanced by Lasat Kundalam. So Lasat Kundalam, we see that phrase in Damodar Ashtakam, the Lasat Kundalam Gokulam. So Lasat Kundal is by the earrings that are hanging on their ears. Then Nirbhat Kapol. Nirbhat Kapol is a dazzling forehead. So their forehead is dazzling because of the decorations. So they have vermilion marks, they have pleasing designs on the forehead. And it is further embellished by their mood, which is described as utsukaha, as one of eagerness. So Sutta Goswami goes through the 3 stages of glorification. He glorifies the natural beauty as Vadanashriya. They were naturally beautiful women. The beauty was further enhanced by the decorations, by the earrings, by the marking on their forehead. And all this was further enhanced by their mood. So there can be a beautiful woman, beautifully decorated, but she's sitting in a sulky way, or she has an angry, frowning expression. She's still not attractive. But in this case, Sutta Goswami is describing it at 3 levels. They were naturally beautiful, the beauty was enhanced by decoration, and all that was further enhanced by their wonderful mood of eagerness, in which they were rushing on their vehicles to meet Krishna. So one of the questions that is asked over here is that why are there prostitutes in Dwarka? And why does the Vedic system allow for prostitutes? So Prabhupada explains in the purport, and the summary is that at all periods of time, people have sinful desires. People are lusty. People want to enjoy with the opposite sex. So better to have a safe avenue for them to satisfy their desires than to become a nuisance to the society. If they're not able to satisfy the desires in this way, then they will molest innocent women. They might kidnap women, seduce them. So rather than creating a disturbance in the society, this is a way for them to take care of their lusty desires. Prabhupada in the purport, he says that it is understood herewith that even in those days, about 5,000 years ago, there were prostitutes in a city like Dwarka, where Lord Krishna resided. This means that prostitutes are necessary citizens for the proper upkeep of the society. The government opens wine shops, but this does not mean that the government encourages the drinking of wine. The idea is there is a class of men who will drink at any cost. And it has been experienced that prohibition in great cities encouraged illicit smuggling of wine. Similarly, men who are not satisfied at home require such concessions, and if there is no prostitute, then such low men will induce others into prostitution. It is better that prostitutes be available in the marketplace so that the sanctity of society can be maintained. It is better to maintain a class of prostitutes than to encourage prostitutes within society. So this whole mood is also very similar to that of, so many people say that why do the Vedas permit eating of meat? There are part of the Vedas that talk about the process of offering and eating meat. And exactly the same explanation holds true. That there is a class of people who are addicted to meat eating, and rather for them to completely go outside the Vedas and commit sinful activities, better than for them to follow the Vedas and do it, and that way the reactions are still there, but to some extent reduced, but still they have this sense of complying with the Vedas. I'm not going to read Prabhupada's purport in entirety, but I just want to share with you some of the points that Prabhupada makes. So one of the points that he makes is from this verse is to note the mood of approaching Krishna, that with love, affection, and eagerness, offering the best of what you can. So he said the prostitutes were beautiful women, and they offered that to Krishna. So why did the prostitutes dress themselves gorgeously? So they were not looking upon Krishna as a customer. That Krishna, will have Krishna as a potential client, but that is what they had. They had beauty, and they offered that to Krishna. That is why they decorated themselves nicely. That is why they wore expensive jewelry, and they went to offer their beauty to Krishna. Similarly, one who is wealthy offers the wealth. One who is intellectual, they offer their intelligence. One who is famous, they offer their fame. So that is the mood that is being exemplified over here. Second point Prabhupada makes is that everyone has a right to become a devotee. Even if you think that the profession of prostitution is abominable, that the women who are engaging in this profession are low-born, but Sutta Goswami is, the fact that he is talking about them in the Bhagavatam is acknowledgement of the fact that he considers themselves to be devotees of the highest caliber. That is why he is calling them out by name. So everybody has a right to become a devotee. And Prabhupada quotes the Bhagavad Gita verse 932. He embellishes the verse a little bit to fit this verse, but essentially it's the translation of 932, where Krishna says that, O son of Pratha, those who take shelter of me, they may be of lower birth. Women, Vaishyas, and Shudras can attain the supreme destination. Third point that Prabhupada makes in the purport is that a devotee is always respectable. So going back to the point that Sutta Goswami talking about them makes them respectable. The fact that they're coming in the Bhagavatam makes them respectable. The fact that we'll see later on Krishna reciprocating to them makes them respectable. So materially, it doesn't matter. A person may be king, but if he has not spirituality, then he's not worthy of respect. But a person may be a Chandal, but if he has devotion, he is worthy of all respects. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Bilmangal Thakur, who actually accepted a prostitute as his Shiksha Guru. So he was addicted to going to a prostitute by the name of Chintamani. And then Chintamani once preached to him that all this affection you have for me, if you had for Krishna, you would become a great devotee. And that made a big difference. And then, of course, later on, he went on to become a great poet, a great devotee. And in many of his offerings, he acknowledges Chintamani as his Shiksha Guru. The final point that Prabhupada makes is that the qualities that are in relationship to Krishna are glorious. No quality in itself is glorious. It only becomes glorious when it is in relationship to Krishna. So Prabhupada, in a lecture in Los Angeles, he makes this point. So the advancement of materialistic civilization without God is like the decoration of a dead body. This is stated in the Vedic literature. So Prabhupada speaks this quote that appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapaha Apranaseva Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. Without devotional service to Krishna, all your good fortune from being born in a very high family, your mantra chanting, your Vedic studies, and your austerities are useless like decorations on a dead body. There is also not an article, but a short article or a note written by Tripurari Maharaj on prostitutes in Dwarka, and he goes a little bit more, I would say, on the esoteric side, but still I wanted to share it with you. I don't think I'll be able to support a lot of discussion on it because, like I said, he goes a little bit on the esoteric side, but I still found it useful. So Tripurari Maharaj says that one may question why persons in Vaikuntha could not feel satisfied with God and thus need any other relationship. The spiritual world is God or Krishna centered, and all relationships are possible in purity. What may appear to be selfish is actually selfless. In the Upanishads, it is said that Krishna is a brahmachari. Durvasha Muni told this to the gopis after a night of Rasa Leela. Some philosophy is required to understand this. In Bhagavatam 1.11.23, Sutta says, Kulastriya Harmayani Arhur. The women from respectable families went to the roof of the houses to see Krishna. So this verse will come a little later on. Suttas, these prostitutes were more fortunate than the respectable ladies since they were able to go and greet Krishna directly. In one of his lectures, Srila Prabhupada says the gopis, they acted like prostitutes, but the center was Krishna. So he's making this point that you may think they are fallen, but actually they are actually more fortunate, because the respectable ladies of Dwarka and Hastinapur, they had to contend with seeing Krishna at a distance because they could not commingle with the general people. But that restriction did not apply to these women, so they eagerly went to meet him face to face. Then the second paragraph is where it becomes a little complicated. He says, the Nitya Leela differs in some respects to the Prakrit Leela. So Prakrit Leela is the manifest Leela. For example, there are demons in Krishna's Prakrit Leela, but only rumors of them in the Nitya Leela. So there may be prostitutes in the Nitya Leela of Dwarka, but only rumors of customers. Finally, although in one place Srila Prabhupada has indicated that all of the inhabitants of Dwarka were liberated, the very nature of the Prakrit Leela is that it is a union between liberated and non-liberated souls. Only all the souls in the Nitya Leela of Dwarka Dham were fully liberated. A thorough reading of a literature should make this point clear. So that is Tripurari Maharaj's explanation. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he translates the Vara Mukhya, which Prabhupada translates as prostitutes, he translates as quotations or dancing girls. It's a little difference in the meaning. Okay, so I'll go to the next verse, 111:20. Natanartak Gandharva Sutamagat Vandanaha Gayanti Chotam Shloka Charitane Adbhutani Cha. Expert dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and learned speakers all gave their respective contribution, being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Thus, they proceeded on and on. So, Sutta Goswami, he talks about here Vibhav and Anubhav. So the Vibhav over here is the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. So it says that they were inspired by it. So that is the trigger that that brought forward this mood, and the Anubhav is that they gave their respective contribution. So whatever was their field of expertise, they acted in that. Prabhupada makes the point that it's human nature to seek entertainment, whether it's in the form of drama or paintings, dances, music, and it's clear that even 5,000 years ago, the needs were the same. The only difference was that all this was centered around Krishna. So it took care of the needs, and it also gave an opportunity to make spiritual advancements. So I remember when we went to Mayapur, then we were traveling around, and I forget the name. It was a small village, and then we had reached that village like late evening. So we went into a temple over there. This was not part of our itinerary. We were not part of like of a group. We were going by ourselves, and it was very interesting to see that we went to the temple for darshan, and in the evening, naturally, all the men of the village, all the women of the village, they came into the temple. So the temple had a big temple hall. The men were sitting in the temple hall. The women were sitting on the side. Some women were doing kirtan. Some men were playing instruments. Some women were gossiping. Some men were gossiping. But everything was around the temple. It was a very small village. But I was noticing that that's the reason the temples were built in the middle of the villages, because they were actually the social center of the villages also. So in the verse also, Sutta Goswami, he says Natanartaka Gandharva Sutta, and Sutta is a profession. As a profession, Sutta means one who are professional historians, which is what Sutta Goswami was. But of course, Sutta Goswami is not an ordinary historian. He's also a pure devotee of Krishna. Otherwise, Krishna would not have deposed his father Romaharshan and put him on the seat. Otherwise, he would not have had the opportunity to speak the Bhagavatam. But by profession, Sutta was a historian. That's why at Naimisharanya, he not only speaks the Bhagavatam, he speaks the Mahabharata also, and he also speaks on several Puranas and Up Puranas also. So when you read Harivamsh Puran, that is also spoken by by Sutta Goswami. Same, Sutta Goswami answering questions by the sages of Naimisharanya. So Prabhupada makes this point that all the Puranas are historical facts described only in relationship with the Supreme Lord in different ages and times, as well as on different planets also. Therefore, we do not find any chronological order. The modern historians, therefore, cannot catch up the link, and thus they unauthoritatively remark that the Puranas are all imaginary stories only. So this is one of the big challenges that historians have, and even we have, when we read the Puran, is trying to establish a chronology. And Puran just means ancient stories, but they are not the stories that are put together. And stories in the sense they're events. They're put together to make a point. Some may be in this day of Brahma, some may have been in the previous day of Brahma, previous yuga, different universes. And because the main thing is the lesson that comes through. So there's not a lot of attention given to correlate them in terms of time and place. And that's why people sometimes become bewildered by it. Okay, we'll do the next verse. Bhagwam tatra bandhunam pauranam anuvartanam yatha vidya upasangmaya sarvesham anamadade. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached them and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome him. So we can see from the previous verses that several people from Dwarka came to greet Krishna. So some of them were his personal friends, bandhunam, personal friends and family, and others were pauranam. So pauranam means that they were descendants of the Puru Vamsha. So they were citizens of Dwarka, related by the fact that they were from the same Vamsha. But in all cases, the main impetus here is anuvartina. So the vibhav over here is anuvartina. Now the question to you is that what is the anubhav? So we had discussed that the result of the vibhav is anubhav. So vibhav is the catalyst or the influence, and anubhav is what happens as a result of it. So the vibhav over here is anuvartitam, which means that they all approached Krishna. So what is the anubhav?
Krishna's reciprocation, that he offered personally greeting them.
So where is this anubhav manifesting?
He offered due honor and respect to each and everyone. For all those, like honor is kind of
conscious, Prabhu.
The what?
Consciousness. As they approach Krishna, the result is the elevation of consciousness. And
so Ravi Prabhu is on the right track. The point that I wanted to make in this verse is that the anubhav is manifesting in Krishna. So we generally look at rasa in the context of devotees. That the devotees, they smell the flowers and they feel devotion for Krishna. They hear kirtan and they feel devotion for Krishna. But actually, Krishna is Rasaraj. So generally he is the Vishaya, but he can also be the Ashraya. So in this case, it's the devotees who are giving the impetus to Krishna. So the Vibhav is coming from the devotees approaching Krishna. And the Anubhav is coming from Krishna, that he reciprocated with them. And the reason this is called out here is because this is our situation. That we approach Krishna and Krishna happily reciprocates. But the impetus comes from us. The nature of Anubhav is, it needs Vibhav. Krishna on his own will not reciprocate. But when the catalyst is there, when the impetus is there, because he is Rasaraja, he is Rasacharya, then because of his natural constitution, he will reciprocate. And we see that over here, the different citizens in different moods. But the common thing is Anuvartada. They all approach Krishna, and Sutta Goswami says that he offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive him. So the question here that Prabhupada again makes in the purport is that he will do the same for us. If we approach Krishna, then Krishna will reciprocate for us. Okay, we'll do the next verse, 111:22. Just give me 1 minute, I'm trying to. Prabhavabi yadana shlesha karasparsha smitekshana ashavasya cha swapakebhya varshe cha vimitar vibhu. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances, and awarding benedictions, even to the lowest in rank. So what is the point of comfort over here for us? Even to the lowest in the ranks. So we fit somewhere. So when he's even going to the lowest in the ranks, we definitely fit in the lowest of the ranks, and Krishna is reciprocating. So the verse talks about the different moods of acknowledgements by Krishna. So for those who were elder to him, like Garga Muni and Shurasen, it was Prahava, that he bowed his head in respect. Then those who were close associates, like Lord Balram, it was Aslesha. Aslesha is that he embraced them. For his friends, his peers, Karsparsha, he shook hands. He gave a smiling glance to the ladies of Dwarka, Smita Ikshana, and spoke pleasant greetings, Abhivadana, to those who had a more formal relationship. Those who were fearful, he spoke words of encouragement, Ashvasya, and those who desired something, he gave benedictions, Vara. So in this verse, Krishna is described as Vibhu. So Vibhu literally means the greatest. And he's called greatest because he alone can do all this. That all these different kinds of relationship, he can fully maintain himself in all different kinds of relationships. So generally, as conditioned souls, we find it difficult to sustain different rasas, different moods. When a boy gets married, then it is difficult for him to sustain the Vatsalya Bhav for his mother and the Madhurya Bhav for his wife. When he has a child, then he has a different bhav for the children. So as the number of relationships grow, it becomes more and more difficult for the person to maintain it. That is just because they are fallible by nature. But here Krishna is described that he is fully reciprocating with all kinds, with his elders, with his close associates, with his peers, with those who had formal relationships, those who were seeking shelter. He was completely doing it. And Sutta Goswami says that cha abhimatihi, and he was doing this because it pleased him to do it. He was not doing it under pressure or social custom or because he wanted to win the next election. He just did it cha abhimatihi, that because that's what he desired to do. So this verse also, completes the anubhav that was started in the previous verse. So there were a group of people that approached Krishna in vibhav, and the anubhav of Krishna is his reciprocation that is mentioned in this verse. So Prabhupada in the purport says, as pure living entities, all are the separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. So pure living entities, and he means the one in conditioned state, are graded differently in terms of contamination of the modes of material nature, but the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels, despite material gradation. He descends only to recall these materialistic living beings back to his kingdom. No one is rejected. And it remains with the living being to accept this or not. So Prabhupada is putting the burden on us. Krishna is there. And just like there was no material disqualification for the prostitutes, there's no material disqualification for us. He will reciprocate with us at whatever stage we are at. So the burden of taking the next step is on us. Krishna is already present there. Okay, I'll stop here and see if there's any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. This is Nandagopal Das. Prabhu, just on this point that you've been telling, we also hear the conditioned soul in this material world are called Nitya Baddha, and meaning that we are always bound. So one time one person was telling, we are Nitya Baddha, there is no hope for us. So how to address this? But you are saying that Krishna reciprocates even to the materially fallen down personalities. So could you please elaborate how to address this kind of arguments?
Thank you, Prabhu. That's a very relevant question. So Prabhupada would explain, so Nitya means eternal, and Prabhupada would explain Nitya Baddhas as one who are conditioned for a very, very long time that appears to be like eternity. And if there was no hope for us, then Krishna would never come, or he would never send his representative. He would not speak the Bhagavad Gita or have the Bhagavatam spoken. So all that he is doing because he obviously considers that there is hope for us. Everything that is said in the scriptures also points to the fact that there is hope for us. The whole description of the process of devotional service, one's journey from being from conditioned to liberated. So all of that points to the fact that not only is there hope for us, but Krishna is eagerly waiting for us to make that journey. So there's definitely hope for us. But the term Nitya again, it means that in what seems to be like eternity, what for many, 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 many uncountable lifetimes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. On the same note is, I mean, one day, many creation and annihilation, billions of years, everybody will go back to Godhead. That means there will be no need for the material world, because once everybody is there, that means nobody will come back.
So I think you're making two assumptions, and I think both the assumptions you're making in the mood of a devotee, that in one day everybody will go back, which is not true. There are some souls which will, which like it over here, they'll not go back. And the second is that there are also souls that are falling from the spiritual world. So it's not that we were the last batch that fell. There's still people who are falling from the spiritual world. So it's kind of like a conveyor belt, that there are people who are falling and hydrating the material world, and then there are people in the material world who are perfecting their life and going back to the spiritual world. And then there's a category of people who Krishna says that I condemn them to take repeated births in demoniac species, who have no interest and continue to stay in the material world.
Yeah, this is a very how do you call this? Difficult to understand as well. But anyway, hopefully, because if Krishna come to convince them, talk the Bhagavad Gita, and then his representative come, hopefully one day their heart will melt. I don't know.
True. I mean, that's our desire. Prabhupada once gave the example that the king builds the prison house. He would be happiest if the prison house was empty, but the practical reality is that it's generally occupied. That's the nature. That's the nature of the jiva. There will be some souls who will misuse their free will.
Yeah, there are some people that commit sin to go back to the prison because they think they're happier there than outside.
That is true.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And Prabhuji, in the same line Sarang Prabhu is asking, so, and you are mentioning there will be always some people who will fall down and there will always be some people go back. Is it, because generally it appears that falling down is a lot easier. So is the proportion of people who go back to Godhead is also significant, just like how people are falling down?
I don't know, Prabhu. Any other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this Anubhav, Vibhav, we've seen this, anytime when there is interaction between Krishna and the devotees, that this will always go on, right? So Vibhav and Anubhav. So even previously in the previous chapters, we saw that, in Queen Kunti's prayers, or, in Bhishma Dev's prayers, or, like there was reciprocation, there was devotees were reciprocating, or that Anubhav Vibhav was there, right? So
your question is, why am I calling it now in this verse, in this chapter?
Right.
So I was mostly inspired by Dhanudhar Maharaj's use, and later on we'll see that this chapter, it kind of presents it in a little bit more pristine mood, that we can see it and see the back and forth there. Sometimes it's more complicated, and this Vibhav Anubhav doesn't always have to be between Krishna and his devotees. It can also happen amongst the devotees themselves. Even if Krishna is absent, we can see this rasa there. And there are times when it becomes a lot more complex. So which is why I said that in this chapter, we will be calling it out when we see it, just so that we have it in our mind. Later on when we see it, I'm not going to call it out, but at least we know that this is the flow of rasa that is going on. Krishna is the recipient, or Krishna is the trigger, the devotee is the recipient, or one devotee is and to be honest with you, I'm really not doing full justice to this topic, but just enough for us to be able to recognize it, because each of these are broken down into, and I think in one of the verses I do that just to give you a sense. They're into sub categories, so that we get an understanding of how something that could pass off as sentimentality is actually anchored so much in a science. Now that's not to take away the love and the emotion. It's like, it's not trying to write an equation to describe love, but it also gives us a sense that this is not just empty-headed sentimentality. There is there is a whole science that is flowing behind it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, one last question. You mentioned that there are two reasons why we should offer our best to Krishna. First reason that you mentioned is bringing auspiciousness, not so much for Krishna, but it is for our own bringing auspiciousness in us. And what is the second reason, Prabhuji?
So did I not mention it, or did you not note it at that point?
I think not mentioned, Prabhuji.
Let me see. Which verse was this?
1:11:18.
So the two reasons that I had mentioned is, the first is that the auspiciousness is not so much for Krishna, but for the performer, right? So you got that part. And the second is that the auspiciousness is basically an offering to Krishna. So I gave that example of Maharaj Yudhishthira offering protection, and the ladies of Hastinapur offering blessings, and the citizens of Dwarka offering gifts. So in itself, we had discussed that Krishna does not need protection, or he does not need anyone's blessings, or he does not need gifts. But the reason why these are done, because they are a natural manifestation of the mood of the devotee. Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes. It's the love with which they are offering, actually. That is the reason.
Thank you for clarifying, Prabhu. Do you have anything else? So we'll do 1:11:24. Rajamargam gate Krishne Dwarkaya Kulastriyaha Harmayanyarahur Vipra Taddikshan Mahotsavaha. When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to the roofs of the palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival. So this is a verse that Tripurari Maharaj also quotes when he's comparing the respectable ladies to the prostitutes. That because the ladies were respectable, they could only see Krishna from a distance by going onto the roof, whereas the prostitutes could go. So in a way, they were actually more fortunate. In the 21st verse, we had seen that Krishna was responding to those who had approached him. So we had spoken about this was the anubhav to Krishna, the anuvartitam. That when they approached Krishna, then Krishna responded by embracing them or shaking hands with them. This verse, it takes Krishna's magnanimity to the next level, that you don't even have to approach Krishna. So the ladies of Hastinapur, they simply ascended on the roof to see Krishna. So in terms of an effort, that was less compared to the others who had gone down on the roads. They were jostling with the other people and they were like, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But even to these ladies, Krishna reciprocated. So the mood of reciprocation in Krishna is extremely strong. It's not, whereas it requires a trigger, but it is not even proportional, it is disproportionate. So even for a small effort, Krishna's response is significant. Another point also is that when we were discussing Krishna's exit from Hastinapur, we see the same thing, that the ladies of Hastinapur, they had gone on the roofs, and from there they were offering their prayers to Krishna. So we see the same thing over here. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport makes a very similar point, that the unrestricted mixing between respectable men and women was not done even 5,000 years ago, just to keep the men away from temptation and protect the chastity of women. Another point Sutta Goswami makes over here was that just looking upon Krishna was the Dikshana Mahotsava, that it was a great festival for the ladies. So what happens in festivals? There is this sense of difference, newness. That's what makes festivals, that it is not the same as it was yesterday, and it's not the same as it will be tomorrow. So they have this novelty of experience. And Prabhupada in the purport, he glorifies festivals. He says, desiring to experience the ecstasy of greeting Krishna, conditioned souls caught beneath the cloud of illusion may also taste a sweet drop of his joyous ocean by visiting him in his temples, especially during celebrations such as Janmashtami and Jhulan Yatra, wherein he accepts worship as a deity. Whether one is qualified or unqualified, good or bad, if one approaches Krishna and sincerely offers him whatever he or she is capable of offering, Krishna will reciprocate with auspicious benedictions, the most beneficial of which will be a deepening of one's desire to serve him. Unless one becomes attracted to festivals in the temple, one's mind will remain bound by attraction to material desires. So this purport of Srila Prabhupada is a summary of all the preaching points made by Sutta Goswami in the previous set of verses. He talks about the reciprocation of Krishna from Krishna. He talks about the various moods in which one can approach. He talks about the fact that everyone is qualified to approach, and then he also glorifies festivals. Prabhupada at another point says that festivals is the mother of bhakti. And another point he told his disciples that every day I can give you a festival. When Prabhupada initially was preaching, and this was in San Francisco, Prabhupada would say, today is appearance day of this. So fast for half a day, and then we'll have prasadam. Next day he would say, today is this day, appearance day of this, we'll do this. So once the disciple asked him, Prabhupada, how many festivals are there? And then Prabhupada laughed and he said, every day I can give you a festival. Okay, next verse. 111:25. Nityam nirikshanam mananam yaddapi dvarka ukshama na vitrapayanti hidrishaha shriyodamangam achutam. The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord. Yet they were never satiated. So in the previous verse, we had discussed how everybody was running to catch a glimpse of Krishna. The ladies were going up to the rooftop, people were running down the street. And this verse was saying that they're accustomed to be looking, because Krishna was living in Dwarka. They were accustomed to be there. But the point that is made over here is that they were never satiated. So Prabhupada says the transcendental name, form, qualities, entourage, etc. are all spiritual manifestations. And there is no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord. And there is no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. He is the source of all and is limitless. So the verse talks about the difference between two things, satisfaction and satiation. So from the material perspective, satiation happens very quickly, but satisfaction is elusive. From the spiritual perspective, satisfaction happens very quickly, but satiation is elusive. So satiation is having the sense of being full, that I have eaten enough, I can't eat, I'm satiated. Satisfaction is having the sense of the fulfillment of your desires, that I have had enough of love, I'm satisfied now. I have had enough of respect, I'm satisfied now. So material world, satiation happens. You're hungry, you eat one puri aloo, you feel a little happy. By the time you're on the fifth puri, you don't like puris anymore. You're satiated. But are you satisfied? Satisfaction is still not there. Still hankering for something more. There's this famous conversation that happens between Maharaj Yayati and his wife, where he talks about this difference between satiation and satisfaction. Because for 100 years, he fully tried to satiate his senses. But he says after this one, he gives the example of a he-goat, she-goat, he gives a metaphor. He said, but after the 100 years of satiation, I'm still not satisfied. So the conclusion that I have come up with is, there is no satisfaction in this material. And that's why then he renounces everything. Krishna, in this verse, he is called Achutam. The Achutam is to indicate that he is infallible. So what is he infallible in? He is infallible in giving satisfaction to his devotees. So the devotees may not be satiated looking at Krishna. They want to look more and more, but they are fully satisfied. As soon as they see Krishna, the satisfaction is there. And that is because Krishna is Achutam. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the that so I had read this earlier on, that the transcendental name form are, so he ends the purport by saying that there is no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord, and there is no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. So what is Prabhupada trying to tell us in this purport? So anybody would want to take a guess?
So he's unlimited. So
Okay. 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 That's definitely something he's trying to tell us. Something else? So Prabhupada is saying that there is no limitation of the entourage of the Lord, which means that there is place for us in the entourage of the Lord. And so we should not think that Krishna has everything he needs, because his entourage is unlimited, means that there is place for one more. And Bhurijan Prabhu, he makes this point that while it means that there is a place for us, we must accept that we won't be number one. So many times when we think that when we go back to the spiritual world, then we'll be sitting on the swing with Krishna, and the other gopis will be swinging us, or or maybe Krishna will be sitting on our shoulders, or we'll be sitting on Krishna's shoulders. And Raupad Maharaj says that those positions are all taken. But he says, and this is, I'm again continuing with Bhurijan Prabhu, that we are the ones that are getting something wonderful, which is the service of the servant of a servant of a servant of Krishna. That position is available, and it is equally potent. Okay, we'll do the next verse, 111:26. Shriyo nivaso yasya raha panapatram mukham drasham pavo logapalanam saranganam apadambujam. The Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for the eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods. And his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. So, previous verse, it talked about the simultaneous satisfaction and the hankering of the residents of Dwarka. So we had said that how they are never satiated, but they are satisfied. So this verse, Sutta Goswami extends that to everybody who's connected to Krishna. So he's not speaking about the citizens of Dwarka in this verse. He's speaking about us. He's speaking about other aspiring devotees. So he's talking about relationship, and he talks about four kinds of seekers here. He talks about Lakshmi Devi, who takes shelter of the chest of Lord Vishnu. He speaks of the eyes that take shelter of his moon-like face. He speaks about the powerful administrators, the Lokpalas like Indra and Agni, that take shelter of his arms. And then he talks about devotees who take shelter of his lotus feet. So the particular mood of the ladies of Dwarka is in the second category. Eyes that take shelter in his moon-like face. They're up in the roof and they're not able to speak Krishna. They're far enough to not have any other personal exchange, but they're seeing Krishna. So their eyes are taking shelter of his drasham, he says. The eyes are taking shelter of mukham drasha, that his face is compared to a drinking vessel, panapatra. So this verse, it glorifies the devotees, and it also glorifies the process of devotion. So the devotees are humble. They're fully satisfied, though never satiated, and in that mood, they take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. So others might take shelter of Krishna's chest, or Krishna's face, or Krishna's arms, but the devotees, they are perfectly satisfied taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And the process that they follow is chanting the glories of Krishna by Nam Kirtan or Jap, and by the study of the Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he gives a slightly different explanation to this, and he says that of the four, the first three can be considered to be materialists. So this is how he explains that those who desire wealth, they take shelter of Lakshmi Devi, who take shelter of the chest of Lord Vishnu. Those who are artists take shelter of the moon-like face of Krishna, considering that all beauty is a reflection of the beauty of Krishna. The powerful rulers who seek strength and prowess take shelter of the strength that is embodied by the arm of Krishna. But only the devotees take exclusive shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. So the first three talks are from a more materialistic perspective. First one is seeking wealth. The other one is looking for beauty. The third one is looking for strength. But the devotees, all they're looking for is bhakti. And then the way that they acquire bhakti is, or the way they take shelter, is saranganam. So ganam means singing, and shara means the essence, and sharam also means the glories. So that is how we had discussed earlier. The devotees take shelter is by how do we sing the glories of Krishna? By chanting his holy name in jap, by discussing his pastimes in Bhagavatam, or by kirtan. Kirtan is by singing his glories. Burijan Prabhu also mentions that the word Shranganam also means a bee. And in that case, this line is reads like a pun, that the bee-like devotees take shelter of Padambujam. So Padambujam is lotus flower. So just like a bee takes shelter of the lotus flower, the devotees take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And Prabhupada in the purport, he writes, Sri Rupa Goswami, the great devotee Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung a song about this lotus honey, comparing himself to the bee. And Prabhupada, he actually writes the song in translation. O my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly therefore give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet. So the translation is beautiful. I could not find what the song is. So if somebody could do that research for me, find out. So it's a song by Rupa Goswami, and Prabhupada had written the translation in that purport. But I was not able to find what is the bhajan that he is referring to. And I'd be really interested in finding that. If somebody has the time, they can do some research and let me know. Okay, next verse, 111:27. Sitat patra Vijanerupakshataha Prashuna Varsher Abhivarshitapati Visangvasavana Malaya Babahu Kana Yatharko Dupachapa. As the Lord passed along the public road of Dwarka, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feathered fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud were surrounded simultaneously by sun, moon, lightning, and rainbows. So what is the technique that Sutta Goswami is using in this verse? We discussed it in the last chapter.
Technique of what, Prabhuji?
So Sutta Goswami is using a presentation technique as an author. So we discussed that he's using what is known as dramatic visualization. So you see that in so much of details he is describing it, and not because it is completely relevant from the spiritual perspective, even though everything can be connected, but look at the picture that he's painting with his words. Like you can kind of close your eyes and picture the scene, that there is Krishna over here, and he has this bluish dark complexion, and then he's clad in golden yellow garments, and is wearing a brightly colored garland around his shoulders, and there is a pure white umbrella that is on his head, and there is a white chamar that is gently flowing around his body, and there is a shower of colorful flowers that are falling on the road in front of them. So you visualize this, and for a moment you are transferred to Dwarka. Sutta Goswami describes it with so much of vivid details because he's trying to draw us into what is happening, so that we are not just academic bystanders who are looking at the flow of the verses, but we're actually experiencing the rasa of Krishna entering into Dwarka. And Prabhupada, he churns that even more. So he says that not only Sutta Goswami is giving us the colors in the palette, he's actually mixing it all up to paint such a beautiful painting for us. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says, the Lord's bodily hue is just like a new monsoon cloud. He's compared herein to the cloud. The white umbrella over his head is compared to the sun. The movement of the bunch hair fan of flukes is compared to the moon. The shower of flowers are compared to the stars. His yellow garments are compared to the rainbow. So all these activities of the firmament, being impossible simultaneous factors, cannot be adjusted by comparison. So he's saying you cannot have the sun, the moon, the cloud, the rainbow, all of them at the same time. But he's saying this adjustment is made possible when we think of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. The Lord is all powerful, and in his presence, anything impossible can be made possible because of his inconceivable energy. But the situation created at the time of his passing on the road was beautiful and could not be compared to anything besides the description of natural phenomena. So we see how Prabhupada is taking what Sutta Goswami has given, and he is embellishing that further. That think of the sun and the moon, the stars and the rainbow and the clouds all coming together in confluence. That the cloud that represents Krishna is moving as the sun and the moon, they appear and disappear behind the behind the clouds. As the charmer, that is compared to the hair, to the bunch hair fan of flukes, that is compared to the moon. It moves back and forth. And all this is conceivable because it is around Krishna. So having waxed on the poetic side, I'm going to get you back to the more analytical side. So this is an example of Prashadhan Vishaya Udipan Vibhav. So it is a Vibhav because it is a stimulant, and the stimulant is coming from Udipan. So we had said the Vibhav were of two categories, Alamban and Udipan. Alamban is directly Krishna or devotees. Udipan is objects connected to Krishna or devotees. So Krishna's face or Krishna's form or things that are related to Krishna are Udipan. So this is in the category of Udipan. Because it is related to Krishna, it is Vishaya Udipan. And again, when we looked at, and when Nectar of Devotion, it looks at the subcategories of Vishaya. So it is Prasadhan because things like Krishna's garments and garland, they come under the category of Prasadhan. So it is Prasadhan Vishaya Udipan Vibhava. Okay, so I actually forgot to stop for the next round of questions. I'm going to stop over here and see if you have any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Just to clarify for Udipan, so Krishna was not present, right? It's only one of the objects or something that is related to Krishna, but here Krishna is there.
So Krishna is there, but even when Krishna is there, then if the stimulant is something that is connected to Krishna, so Alamban is Krishna doing something, and Udipan is something that is related to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says that the difference between Alamban and Udipan is a little subtle. That if the Alamban is a little mellow, or if the Udipan is a little severe, then the Udipan can become Alamban or vice versa. So a person may get into waves of devotion by seeing Krishna's form, which for this purpose they consider it to be separate from Krishna. But if the mood of the person is that he's seeing the form only in connection with Krishna, then it becomes Alamban. So the interpretation is to a great extent dependent on what is the mood of the devotee who is evaluating, or not evaluating, what's the right word? Who's I guess reacting. What is the mood of the devotee who is reacting to the situation?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So there's one other question also. I don't know if I can ask this appropriately, or in the earlier section you mentioned about being selfish for devotion. So we are nowhere even close for anything like that. But in our practical life also, sometimes we do give priority to some of the devotional activities, and it may appear that we are being selfish to the spiritual purposes. So how does that relate? Or I guess, is it okay to be selfish in the spirituality? like you prioritize and you give importance to the spiritual activities, sometimes it may appear like you are being too much drawn away into that, and so.
It's a good question. It's also a big question to be asking when I'm 1 minute over my allotted time. So briefly, I think the answer is, and this is a question that gets asked very often. The brief answer is that selfishness in spirituality is kind of like an oxymoron, because the nature of spirituality is that we were just saying that how Vasudeva is magnanimous. The devotees by nature are magnanimous. So what is perceived perhaps as selfishness is more predicated on the way that the person is perceiving it. But factually speaking, when a person is trying to improve their own spiritual life, the way that spirituality works is that it tends to be inclusive. When a child is trying to improve their spiritual life, the parents benefit by it. When the father is trying to do it or the mother is trying to do it, the children benefit by it. When the king is trying to do it, the whole nation benefits about it. These are the cases when it is being done in the proper mood. The other side of the spectrum is what Krishna describes in the 3rd chapter, is when is Falgu Vairagya. When in the name of spirituality, that which is troublesome is artificially given up. That I'm married, I have a family, and I find that too much of a burden. And then I just come home one day and I say that tomorrow I'm a sadhu. So I do it essentially to escape my responsibilities, not because I have devotion, right? So that is what is considered to be selfish, which it is, but because it lacks the spiritual focus. That which is done with spirituality in the center is always going to benefit the person who's practicing it and to the people who are connected to the person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm sorry I couldn't do full justice to your question, but given the time. Anything else? Any other question, comments? Okay. So I also wanted to thank Gaurasundar Prabhu. He sent me the song. And Gaurasundar Prabhu, if you can also send it to Prem Kishore Prabhu, and then he can send it out to the group.
I took a note, Prabhu.
You to send it? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. So we'll end over here. Vancha kalpatarubhayaschet kripa sindhubhya eva cha Titanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Gaur. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.